Hello and welcome to today's webinar. A little housekeeping before we begin. Everyone is muted during the webinar. All webinars will be recorded and sent out to all attendees after the webinar has concluded. Tomorrow, the recorded webinar will be sent out to all participants. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to ask questions during the webinar by clicking the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Once the presentation concludes, I will ask the questions presented in the Q&A box. I may not get to everyone's questions, but we will do our best. With that being said, I would like to introduce you to Ruben Franco, President and CEO of the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Agna, and welcome everybody to this webinar series. This is the third part of our series, this How to Do Business with the State of California, or DGS. We also have on the call our two lead supplier diversity consultants with the SBDC, Raul Medrano and Michael Farage. They're both experts in that, and if you do need to reach out for us for additional help, we'll have their contact information here today at the end of the slide presentation. The Orange County Hispanic Chamber has been around for nearly 35 years. We've all been about helping business succeed, grow, start. That's what we're here for. In the SBDC program, we are funded by the SBA, by the governor's office in the state of California, and by other generous supporters, so we can provide no cost one-on-one consulting for you. With that being said, I'd like to hand it over and introduce to you Michael Angullio with the state of California and DGS to give our presentation. Michael, thank you for the partnership and thank you for giving the presentation today.
Well, it's my honor to be a part of this. I again want to thank the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for hosting today's program, and of course the previous other one and the next one following this. I'd also like to thank Cal State Fullerton for providing the Zoom, and Edna for helping me out today. So without further ado, if we go, she's going to help me move the slides forward. I am going to talk to you about how to do business with the state of California. My name again is Michael Angullio. I am the Business Outreach Liaison from the Office of Small Business and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Services, otherwise known as OSDS, for the California Department of General Services, the state of California. Now we're going to go over several topics. We're going to have the overview of the Small Business and the Disabled Veteran Business Program. We're going to thank again the Small Business Developmental Centers, but we're going to talk about resources at the very end. It's the state certifications, which actually was a part of series part 1. The benefits of the state certifications, the Cal e-procure registration and certification processes, how to get benefit from your keywords and the UNSPSC codes, otherwise known as the United Nations Standard Products and Service Codes. We're going to talk about how our current bid solicitations look like, and we're talking about past purchases and how to use that historical information to help you find new contacts for contracts. All right, so moving forward, we have our goals. The state has huge goals. We have a 25% inclusion goal for state spending with small businesses and a 3% goal with the disabled veteran business enterprises. So out of all of that, you're wondering, okay, what does that mean for me as a small business? Well, let's go into dollars and cents, which would be the next slide. Last year, we tracked over $10 billion worth of spending. Out of that $10 billion, we spent $2.2 billion, and that's the 18-19, actually has gone up, with small businesses, and $336 million with DVBEs, otherwise known as Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. Huge amount of money is being spent in those two areas as state goals. All right, so the state has 3 certifications that you can take it. One, of course, is the small business certification. The new one is a small business for the purpose of public works. We'll talk about how each one of them looks. And then, of course, we have the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise certification. All right, so you're wondering, okay, what is the eligibility requirements for a small business? Well, it's pretty simple. You must be independently owned and operated. You cannot be dominant in the field of operation. you must have your principal office located in California and have an owner or offices in the case of a corporation domiciled in California. This is a California-based program for California-based businesses. Okay. All right, now the last slide here, pretty much in regards to the eligibility requirements, is in a nutshell, is a business with 100 and fewer employees and have an annual gross receipts of $15 million or less over a 3-year tax years. So what that means is that over a 3-year period, if you make more money one year, less than another year, as long as it averages out to $15 million or less, then you can still be certified as a small business. Now, what happens though, if you're a manufacturer with 100 or fewer employees, then you can still get certified as a small business, but the dollar threshold goes away. A lot of this information is repeat from the first workshop that was given. So now Public Works, it just changes just a little bit. All prerequisites remain the same except for the fact that now you can have 200 employees or fewer, and now the annual gross receipts goes up to $36 million over a 3-year tax period. So the only thing that changed between small business and small business Public Works is the size of your business regarding employees and how much the dollar threshold is. Everything else remains the same. Pretty huge for businesses that, especially in the construction field or any other areas that do Public Works, that grow outside of that, you can still be certified as a small business within the states, as long as you're doing any kind of public work. All right, now, disabled veteran business enterprise eligibility requirements must be 10% service disabled. In other words, on your DD 214 as you released, you have to be 10% service disabled by the federal government. All right, you have to be the majority owner, 51%. And if your limited liability must be wholly owned by one or more disabled veterans. All right, so the other thing that we're looking for is daily operations must be managed and controlled by one or more of the veterans. It's a veteran-based business, has to be operated by veterans. Disabled veteran who manages and controls the business is not required to be disabled veteran business owner. The reason why I'm reading it directly from these slides, it says that there's no misunderstanding. So it's right there in black and white. All right, the home office must be located in the United States and cannot be a branch of a subsidiary or a foreign corporation, firm, or other foreign-based business. It's all about a California-based business, a United States-based. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You got any questions? Now's the time to ask. So, no questions about eligibility requirements for any of those? Then we'll move on. All right, so it's huge. Now you're wondering, okay, I got 3 types of certification I can get. Well, if you qualify for all 3, then you can get all 3 certification. Now here's the caveat with that. If you're a small business that does Public Works, you don't have to apply for the Public Works certification as long as you are a small business with $15 million or less. You automatically qualify for the larger version or the Public Works aspect. So you don't have to apply for that. You're automatically given that process. Only businesses that exceed the 15 million or 200 employees have to apply for that. If you're a small business, you're already qualified to do that kind of work. All right, so anyway, the benefits are extreme in regards to this, why you want to get certified if you want to go through the process. For one, we have those huge goals, 25% and 3%. So you're automatically put in, your profile is automatically put in what I call the preferred vendor database, because the state has those goals. Where do they find you? In the state's database as a small business or disabled veteran business enterprise. So it's really incumbent upon you to have a very, very robust and adequate certification, or at least profile on the database. All right, so we have the small business preference and the DVB incentives. We'll talk more about that later in the coming slides. And then we have the Prompt Payment Act, which pretty much means is the state is required to pay you within 45 days of the undisputed invoice. And if they don't, you get late penalty payments. All right, so we also have Reciprocity Partners, and that was talked about in the last workshop, if you happen to have been there. Reciprocity Partners with cities and counties who accept our certification and utilize their small business program from our database. We'll talk all about that more detail later. All right, so now you're looking at, okay, how do we apply the small business preference? Well, it's pretty simple. We'll take a simplified solicitation. You as a bidder that is not certified, you bid $100,000, okay? A certified small bidder bids 102. So if you're looking at just the bids itself, the non-certified small bidder is the lowest bid at $100,000. So you really, in dollars and cents, have outbid the certified small bidder. However, since there's a preference for you, we take 5% off the lowest non-certified bid. The 5%, of course, of $100,000 is $5,000. We subtract that from the lowest certified small business. $5,000 off of their 102, of course, becomes 97. So for evaluation purposes, the non-certified bidder is still stuck at $100,000, and the certified bidder now is at 97. So they win because they have the lowest bid. However, when it comes down to payment, of course, we pay at the original amount of 102, as long as they're certified by the state of California as a small business. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and a huge benefit for certified small businesses who are competing against larger corporations and or larger businesses. You get that 5%, so it's huge. That's how we balance. All right, so any questions there so far about benefits of certification? Now, I just want to expand a little bit of some of the certifications while I'm at this point. There is a DVBE incentive to where disabled veterans, if the solicitation has it available for you, there can be an additional 0 to 5% on top of the 5% you may get expulsed. So if you're a certified small business and a DVBE, there's additional added percentages involved. It's all in the solicitation. It'll tell you how much. So you can get up to a 10% discount if you happen to be certified as a small and a disabled veteran business certification, up to $100,000 off your bid when they go to evaluation. So it's huge if you happen to be both. All right. So let's move forward. Now you're wondering, okay, how does this all work? I'm eligible based on the requirements. I like the benefits that you get. So how do I apply for a small business certification? Well, here you go. Registering and applying for certification is two-step process. Now, it doesn't cost you anything, just so you know, and you have to go to Cali Procure to start the process. All right, so you want to go to the next slide, and it will take you right to what our solicitation, or at least our database looks like. So if you're looking for the Cali Procure website, here's what it looks like. Make sure that you get to this site and not anywhere else, because there's a whole bunch of other people trying to give you websites to go to, but they charge you a little bit extra money to do that when everything here is free, as I said earlier. Okay, so you log in and register at that one link. When you go to log in, you will log in as a new bidder. Now, the new bidder, you would have to, pretty simple, is go in and start the form. So here's another way of getting in there. You just hit the small business, disabled veteran business check mark in the middle, and you'll end up here, get certified or register. So there's two ways of getting there, okay? Just so you know. So what it is that you'll fill out a 5-step form. So you'll get in there and you'll fill, and I have the brochure that we can hand out. I'll give it to Edna or somebody at the Hispanic Chamber to add that to the information that we're sending out. So it's a 5-step process to get to register, okay? So like I said, it's a 2-step process. You're going to register for username and password. Once you receive your new username and password, you will go back to where we started, enter your information in with username and password, and fill out the online application. Everything is online. It takes you about 40 minutes. If you type faster than I do, then it'd probably take a lot less. Since I only use 2 fingers, that's why it takes about 40 minutes for me to go through the process. But for you, maybe 30, and it doesn't cost you anything. All right, so one of the things that you need to do when you fill out your online profile, you have to use keywords. Now, keywords are huge for you. When the state buyers are buying anything with the state of California, we type in things that we need. For instance, if we want water, we type in the word water. Everybody who has a profile that has water in it will come up in our search. At that particular time, we'll go out and get some quotes from you. Okay, now, the other way is our UNSPSC codes. You will choose the codes that matches your business. We would like you to choose the 8-digit code, which is the parent code as we call it. So it'll list everything under paper and writing papers, the different types of papers. So you would choose both of those to fill out your online profile. Once doing so, and if you do it correctly, the state will notify you. Here's how we use the UNSPSC codes. When the state is writing a solicitation, it attaches the code number to that solicitation, and then we post it. Once it's posted, everybody who has the same UNSPSC codes in their profile will automatically get an email saying, hey, based on your profile, you may be interested in submitting a bid or proposal because your profile says you are capable of doing the work. Now you can choose yes or you can choose no, but you're automatically sent some email. Okay, so that's huge for you. So it's incumbent upon you to be really, really robust in that area. You can put as many codes that apply to your business. In the keywords application, it's the same thing. So whatever keyword that you choose, like in the example that you see on the screen, it says concrete. Well, you look up the UNSPSC code for concrete and vice versa. So whatever code you put in for the UNSPSC codes, you would then add that word into your profile. So they should match in all aspects. All right, so pretty simple in those areas. Now here's a big hint for you. If you cannot think about what to put in your profiles, all you have to do is you go back to the Cal eProcure website. You go to the middle button, which looks like a check mark, hit that, and the second bullet down, I believe, you can look up anybody else in our database. So if you know somebody else that's doing concrete, you just type in concrete, all the concrete providers will come up. You can take a look at their profiles and see what they have in their keywords and our UNSPSC codes, and that will give you a hint on what you might want to put in yours. So that just a little simple hint that you can use so everybody can see everybody else's profile. It's an open system. So if you can't remember what to put in yours, or you're running out of thought process and you need a little bit of hint, just take a look in our database to see what somebody else has in theirs. So, all right, so built through all this presentation. I know they said hold your questions to the very end, but I had question and answer period built in when I made this PowerPoint presentation for you. Okay.
Sure.
You want to answer a question or we just want to move forward?
I could probably pop a couple questions there for you, Michael.
Okay.
It looks like there's a question in regards to the veteran disability. Do you require the actual form as proof for the disconnectivity report, the DD-214?
Yeah, we require to have a copy of your the DD-214 as proof that you are 10% service disabled. So you can get that through, of course, the federal government, or another easy way to do that is contact the Cal Vet, our department, and they can help you retrieve that as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you can, and you can go directly to the va.gov for records too.
Yeah.
Let me pull up one more. There's another one that has to do with owners and their domicile states. So if there's multiple owners, do they all have to be domiciled in California, or is it a majority owner, or how does the state of California look at that?
So you have...
The question's kind of vague, but it seems like one owner might not be in California.
Oh yeah, what is that? Is that one owner, majority owner? Then we got a problem. If that
Okay.
owner is a silent partner and they're part of the owner of the company, I'd have to submit all that documentation on who owns what and where they reside. And then our certification unit will determine, after they ask a few questions, of whether or not you can be certified as a small. So that's a really kind of complex one, but well, as you fill out the documentation or the certification application, they'll start asking you questions about, okay, who's the owners, where are they located, how much they own, how do they present in their business. If there'll probably be a red light that comes up, and then our certification officer will then intervene and ask questions that are necessary to whether or not you can get certified as a disabled veteran business enterprise with the state of California. But the questions
Okay.
are based in the application, so it depends on your answers. Will depend
Okay.
on whether or not you can get certified. That's a good question.
Okay. I'm gonna give you one more, and then if you have more slides, we can move forward. There was a question in regards to the small business for purpose of public works.
Mm-hmm.
The question is it not needed if you qualify as a small business with less than 100 employees?
That is correct.
Yeah.
You're automatically given that certification. You don't have to apply for the public works, because as a certified small business, you automatically are eligible to do public works work. So only at the time that you reach the threshold to where you have over 200 employees and make $36 million, then you have to reapply to get that certification. Prior to any of that, you ought to qualify and you don't need that certification because you already have it.
Okay.
The only thing that you'll see that's not, I never addressed, but when you get your certification with the state of California as well, as a small business, there's another acronym that's added to your certification. You'll see an MB next to the SB. So any small business that makes less than $5 million a year and has less than 25 employees, the state automatically gives you a micro business certification. A lot of the cities and counties that use our reciprocity agreement uses that certification for their local preference programs. You're automatically given that. So if you happen to see that and you wonder what it is, that's what it is.
Okay. You know, Mike, I want to ask one more. I saw one pop up, and I think this is important because on the federal side, it's one of the requirements for a lot of certifications. Does the owner of the entity or the firm have to be a citizen?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, that's the first time anybody asked me that question, actually. Do they have to be a citizen? You know what? I don't know the answer, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, I'll save it.
What
We
the
can
federal
park it.
government does? Could you
They
teach me something?
they require citizenship on
Oh.
a majority of them.
I'm sure that's probably the same with the state, because our certification pretty much mirrors what the federal government has. I know that you have to be a California resident. Now, do you have to be a citizen? I'm pretty sure that's going to be yes. However, I don't know. I'll have to go check. Good question. I'll find out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, so let's
All right.
go on to bids and past purchases. How do you use them? How do you find them? And here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the Cal eProcure website, which all of our information is housed here. What we're buying, how we buy it, where to find it. Your profile is on here. A lot of great information is built into this system. So what you're going to do is use our quick links. You just go view or search bids, or you can go through the big check mark in the middle, click that, it'll take you to the same place. So there are multiple places or ways you can get to where you want to go. All right, so you'll press quick links, view and search bids. Once you get there and you're viewing search bids, you will see this particular search function. It's very robust in what you can look at. The event name. So if you type in anything to do with cement, as we said earlier, or you can type in the departments you want to work with. Let's say you're down the street from the local DMV. Just put DMV, and then it'll just show you what the DMV is buying, and you can even say, hey, look, I want to see the ones in Orange County. So you can get it even more precise. All you got to do is hit the advanced search criteria. All right, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. It would just list everything that you want. So everything comes up. Now, if you want more specific information, all you have to do is just type in what you're looking for. And then it will sort out everything else and give you exactly what you're saying that you're searching for. In this case, if you look at the very top one, it's talking about fire apparatus. So if you took in fire, everything that has to do with fire will come up. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple to use. If you got any questions, by all means, you can give us a call and we can go through walk through the process on how to do that. All right. Now that you know how to search to find solicitation, let's go back and we'll talk about past and history. So getting public information is where you're going to find all our historical purchasing. So if you go here, get public information, you click on that link, and then the following, it'll take you to the following screen, which is view past purchases. If you go down, it says here, the second bullet down is skippers. Search Contract Procurement Registration System, SCPRS. So the second bullet down, you're going to click on that, and it's going to take you right here to all of our historical purchasing. Now, why is that important to you as a buyer, or a seller, I should say? Is that through here, as in the previous search function, you just type in the department, supplier name, anything regarding the solicitation itself, or in this case, these are past contracts. It will give you all the information you're looking for. Who bought it, when they bought it, how much they bought it for, what they actually bought. It's all a part of this giant Excel spreadsheet. So why is that important for you as a seller? Well, now you know, before you go on to bid anything, go find out how much we paid for it last. By not doing so, you do a disservice for yourself because you didn't find out what the price break was in the first place. So now you're bidding in the blind. It would be nice to know that, hey, look, how much did we buy that last apple for? We bought it for 3 cents. Well, 3 cents, we bought 1,000,000 apples. Actually, we buy more than that. But the fact is, if you bid 5 cents on an apple, then you might be a little bit out of our price range. Or if you bid less than that, then you take profit margin off your table. So using this system here, our historical database, you can find all kinds of information, how much we paid for it, what department bought it, and in some cases, it will give you the buyer's name and contact information. And that's huge for you as suppliers. You're always looking for, who do I contact? What do I contact? Well, right here, you can find all that information. It's really a hidden gem for suppliers who are trying to figure out how to sell to the state. Now, for whatever reason, okay, and the resources are going to come up later, you see on the screen right now, it says Department of Forestry or Fire Protection or Department of Transportation bought these products. So if you get to a place where you find that there's no buyer assigned to that particular solicitation as you scroll across the screen, well, now you know what department bought it. All you have to do is do a little reverse engineering. Later on in this presentation, I'll show you how to find the advocates in those departments. So you'll just reach out to the Department of Transportation advocate and say, hey, look, I'm looking for information regarding this particular buy. If you're looking at the third one from the bottom, it says Perel. You know, the hand sanitizer. Department of Transportation bought a whole bunch of Perel for their offices, or not for their offices. In this case, it's probably just for one office. So now you know that they buy safety PPE stuff, you know, hand sanitizer, if you will. So if you want to sell it to the Department of Transportation, you look up the advocate. The advocate will probably tell you all the buys that they had for, you know, DOT. And then that price probably went up from, you know, $1,700 to $1,700,000 because there's a whole bunch of Caltrans offices throughout the state of California. So little reverse engineering, a little bit of work, you can get prices, contact information, everything you need to help you better off when you go to bid on a solicitation with the state of California. So one of the biggest failures that we find out from our buyers throughout the state of California, we ask them, you know, what are the 12 major causes that small businesses fail to do before bidding? And one of them is not checking out historical pricing. So don't forget to do that. You know, be proactive. Make sure you're in the right place with the right price so that you can win your contract. All right. So All right, so I do have a little bit of open questions regarding some of that information I went through. You'll see that we have built-in Q&A throughout because I definitely like participation. And it's kind of really hard when you're doing it on a Zoom platform. Most of the time we're doing this in person, so it's pretty easy to do. So if we like to move forward, I only have a few more slides, probably about 13 more, and then we'll be done. All right, so as I said earlier, we have advocates. They're state employees that are embedded in all the state departments. Every state department in California, if they spend over $100,000 authority-wise, so if they're going to spend more than that, what happens is the state of California, there's 30 some odd departments. Each department has to apply to the Department of General Services, our department, to have what we call delegation authority, which means that they can buy on their own. Because if we don't give them delegation authority, the Department of General Services, my department, will buy for them whatever they need. So most departments want to say, look, I don't want Big Brother overlooking me. Here's my application and give me my authority to buy. So once we do that, if we give them over $100,000, they're required to give me a name. I am the chairman of the board for the Advocates Committee. That name is my contact into that department, which is now, as all you sellers, is your contact. So anyway, the advocate is there to help you with any questions that you have regarding their department and any solicitations that you come across, whether it's present and or past. So use them. They're your resource. Later on, I'll show you how to get there. All right, so here we go. You'll go back to the main page. You'll hit the small business, the center with the check mark. You'll scroll down and it says find a small business DVB advocate. Everything, like I said, there's a lot of information on this website. So the advocate, you can go to the next slide and you download the advocates directory. It will list all the advocates throughout the state of California in every department. It will give you their name, their department, their email address. Some of them do have telephone. Now, here's a big hint for you. When you're reaching out to an advocate, there's several things that I would recommend that you do. I think they talked about this on Certified Now What, which was the past presentation that we just had as a part of the series. What I recommend is that you create a capability statement. If you don't know what that is, you can check with the SBDC. They have classes and counselors that can help you creating one. Basically, it's your one page, and I say one page. We like to keep it to one page. At least the state would like to keep it to one page of your accomplishments, how to contact you, what you can and cannot do, well, what you can do, not what you cannot do. And then you would send that to your advocate. My recommendation is you send it to the advocate an email with your attachment, and then you follow up with a phone call. It says, hey, this is who I am. This is the business I work for. I sent you a capability statement. When you get an opportunity to review it, perhaps we can have a conversation. Or my recommendation is you call them before you send the capability statement. That way you start a dialogue. It's really important. I think, who was that? I think Manuel or Michael or Raul, one of you two had mentioned the fact that you should get to know who your buyers are and pay attention to the conversations. If they say that, look, I can't talk to you right now because I'm going on vacation, the next time you call them, you should ask them, how was your vacation? I think he brought that up in the previous presentation. The more you make personal contact with your buyers, the better off that you are as a supplier, because most people are going to gravitate to somebody they can trust and they understand what their needs are as well. So this is a hint. I'm just kind of repeating what was said in the previous presentation. All right, so now that you know how to get the advocates, of course, we had the question and answers. We'll kind of bypass that real quick, and then we'll get to all the questions at the very end, because I'm almost done. The biggest thing that the state was trying to make sure that all sellers understand is that you must provide a commercial use for function, otherwise known as CUF. Now, what that means is that, and it's right here in black and white, and I'll read them so that nobody misunderstands what I'm trying to tell you. The first three bullet points talk about here's where you can find that information if you want to read it yourself. But what it says here is you got to execute a distinct element of the work. You have to be doing some of the work if you're getting this contract, or you're going to be performing or managing or supervising the work, or you're performing in a normal for the firm's business and functions. So you can read this, all of you. So basically what it means is that as a supplier, you must have a commercial useful function to that contract, either by performing the work or as part of how work is done business-wise. But you have to be if you're not, you're not a part of it. And we find you as a pass-through. The state is trying to eliminate pass-throughs so that you as primary business owners that have the capability of doing the job is not having a third party intervene on your behalf and taking a percentage of the money that you can get directly. There has been several of that happening in the past where they represent businesses like veterans, and they're not a veteran, but they're taking some of that work and subcontracting out to a veteran, but has no necessarily commercial useful function other than the fact that they are a pass-through in that aspect. So all of the commercial useful function guidelines are in this PowerPoint presentation. You know, slide will actually go, and if your business does not, so if you go to the next slide, please. It outlines some of the things that you're not used to be a part of the work, as stipulated in a bid. You no longer use the goods or services in initial bid response, and you're the expert participant that doesn't need to be there. These are all a part of the commercial useful function guidelines. You go to the next slide, and basically what it's saying is that, and here's how it all works. So just understand about commercial useful function. Every buyer is required to evaluate whether or not the supplier or the bidder meets the commercial useful function guidelines. It's the buyer's responsibility to ask all the questions from you as a supplier, as you saw on the two previous screens. If you meet the CUF qualifications, then the buyer will go ahead and make the buy. At that point, everything is okay. So as long as you're truthful, straightforward, then you won't have any issues as a supplier. But I just need to make sure that everybody understands there is requirements as suppliers that you are doing some kind of the work that is presented by the solicitation itself. All right, so I got a couple of more slides and then we can go through all the questions. Basically what it comes down to is the final resources. As you heard earlier, the SBDC is a huge benefit for you. If you didn't hear it in the previous broadcast, one is they're free. Actually, you pay through your taxes. They're also they get money sometimes from the state because we are a sponsor to the SBDCs, or some of them, if not all of them. But they're there to help you. As it business counseling, business planning, marketing, access to capital. They are a huge benefit for you as business owners to answer all kinds of questions. Now, of course, I don't want to bring them up, but as part of the slides, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center works kind of simultaneously with the Small Business Center, but they are specifically designed to help you with contracting needs. Although I know that the SBDC can do that, but the PTAC, if you're looking at a review of your solicitations, they're supposed to have the expertise to help you with that. Of course, SCORE is a mentorship program. They're designed to actually put you in contact with people who have done the business that you're in to help you mentor and go through the process of not making the mistakes that they have made in their previous business owner, as a previous business owner. So there's a huge amount of 3 resources right there that you can use. Of course, we as a DGS has classes, and I again want to thank the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for allowing me to be a part of all of this. And of course, Edna for helping me out here at Cal State Fullerton. All right, so the last thing that I have is the review. Overall, I wanted to talk to you about how and what is the Small Business and the Disabled Veteran Business Center program was. What the state certifications we have. We have 3: Small Business Public Works, and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. Some of the benefits we had talked about. You put in the preferred vendor database, you get the 5% bid preference. And if you happen to be a DVBE, Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, and a small business, you get both. If you qualify for both, you get both. Get up to another 5%, maybe a 10% discount on your evaluation of your bids. We talked about how to register as a small business. You got to register first and then fill out the online application. It's a two-step process, but it only takes you about 40 minutes to get it all done. The time it took you to listen to this presentation, if you're not certified, you could have gotten certified. Keywords and UNSPSC codes, they're really huge for you because that's your online profile. Your online profile is what state buyers use to find you. So you have to be thorough in putting that all together. The more you have in your profile, the better off that you might be. So make sure that when you look at your business, what is it that you do, and make sure that you're complete and describing all of that. For you how to find current bids under Cali Procure. All of our solicitations are housed there. You can find them all with one exception. Well, actually, there's several exceptions. There's 3 exceptions. For those of you who believe that all solicitations are advertised, well, that is not true. It actually goes into our next. We have we have a 3-step series ourselves. We have introduction to how to do business with the state, certified now what, and of course how the state buys. Anyway, one of the things that I want to put out in this particular presentation is that the state does not advertise 3 types of solicitations. 1, anything under $5,000, the state will deem that fair and reasonable as long as the buyer can prove that buy is fair and reasonable, the price. Then all they have to do is just go into the database and call somebody up and get only 1 quote. They don't need more than 1 quote because they have already proved that this is the fair price. So if you have that price and you're below that price, then they can buy direct. The other one is if they're using the small business DVB option, which is another benefit for you as suppliers. The state of California can buy anything under $250,000 by going into the database. So if you're a certified small business and we're trying to buy, and I use the item water, if you happen to have water as a part of your supply that you can sell to the state only needs to get 2 quotes and get 2 quotes for cases of water. If the lowest one wins, and you can win up to a $250,000 contract. So anything below a $250,000 contract doesn't get advertised as long as they're using the small business DVB option. And finally, the other ones that not advertised on the state's website is emergency purchases. When we were going through this COVID-19 early stages, the state went out and bought masks and some other PPE gear. It didn't have to advertise it because they went out and just bought it because we needed it in this emergency that we were having for the state. We couldn't wait for the federal government, so the state went out and purchased on its own. Anyway, those are the 3 types of purchases that are not advertised, so you just need to know that. All right, so past purchases. I showed you where to find historical procurement database. Everything you want to know on who bought it, when they bought it, how much they bought it for, is in that database. That database goes back to 2009 if you want to download it. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of purchases in there. My recommendation is you just download a year because it'll take you forever to download all that data. All right, so the last 2 items that I wanted to point out is that we have the small business advocates. I showed you how to find the list. Those advocates are designed to help you with all your questions regarding their department, any present and past solicitations. So all you got to do is send them an email. They're your conduit into a department. Lastly, I talked to you about commercial useful function. I need to make it plainly clear that we have a lot of businesses right now posing to be businesses, but all they are is a person that is trying to sell through the state, but use you as a supplier. And that's just a pass-through. They're not have anything to do with anything except for taking a percentage. And we're trying to eliminate that so you as a business owner who's trying to sell with the state of California gets all the rights that you deserve in being certified. Lastly, I brought up, and it is the resources that you have. The Small Business Developmental Center that Raul and Michael are a part of, they are a huge, huge benefit. Use them. I can't speak enough on how well they do their jobs and how passionate they are at what they do. So my recommendation, if you haven't made an appointment and you haven't used them, you're really doing a disservice for yourself. That's pretty much is my presentation in a nutshell. I wanted to keep it plain and really simple for you. The last thing that I have is that I hope all of you find success in selling with the state of California. If you do find success, please let me know. And if you're not finding success, I also want you to let you know that you can reach out back to me and to our department through our CustServe mailbox, and we can help you with your profiles, answer any questions about, bidding, processes. But we definitely would like to hear that you've done well. So it's our goal. Finally, I want to thank you for participating today. And again, thank the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Cal State Fullerton, and of course my partners in this, Raul, Michael, Edna, and Ruben. And if you want to reach out to me, my contact information is the last slide. You can send it to the CustServe mailbox. And then, of course, if you have more information that you want to look up, I sent you the website here on the slide on how to get to the DGS website, procurement division. So thank you again for listening, and hopefully I shared some information that you can use today. That was my huge goal for today. Of course, you got Michael's and Raul's, and they're your local contact in Orange County. My recommendation is these two gentlemen are a huge benefit for you. I can't speak more highly of these two guys, and of course all the people out of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that have done so wonderful to help small businesses in their communities. All right, so having said all of that, if you have any other questions, by all means, let's see what they got. Maybe they don't have any.
All right, Michael, thank you again. So here's a question, and it came up a couple times, and so it might be a two-part question. So for the UNSPSC code, does the small business need to have a primary code, or can they list multiple codes? And if there is a primary code, can the secondary codes, can they go after bids or solicitations as a secondary item, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense if I'm thinking how they're asking that question. You can put in as many codes that apply to your business. So if you have a primary, like you do cement, but then out of that you sell, trowels and everything else, you can put all of that, everything that applies to your business, you should enter those codes that represent who you are. Because many businesses just don't do one thing, they do multiple things. Enter them all in. And then you have ancillary products from your services as well, or your products. Like I said, you have cement, so you have not only the cement, but you have all the equipment that needs somebody to buy on or sell on their own. Put that codes in there if you do all of that. So yeah, enter all codes that apply.
Okay, perfect. Here's a question. I've seen the very small business set aside. Is this related to the micro business designation? And I'm going to further that. Are these solicitations and items, can they be filtered by the designation of the code, or is it implied?
Okay, so if you can, through our search function, you can actually choose solicitation that are for small businesses. We don't really buy from micro business. The micro business certifications are used by our Reciprocity Partners that we kind of mentioned before. Our cities and counties throughout the state of California have a lot of local preferences programs. Not all of them, but some of them do. So to help with the certification, we agreed to have a micro business certification that these cities and counties and municipalities will use to find small business for their programs, or at least I should say micro businesses. But yeah, through our search function, you can look through there and say, hey, I want to see what solicitations are going out just for small businesses and or have the small business preference program built into them. You can definitely do that.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Well, let me think through that. You can definitely look through, when you do the search function, through small micro businesses and or small business, through our search through the business profiles itself. As far as solicitations, does that actually work to find just stuff for small business? Not reviewing my, it's not always the case. Because not,
Okay.
I have to look through that, but I don't know if you can look through through solicitations just to see if there's a solicitation for small business. No, you know what? I'm really proud of you people who are attending today's webinar. You're very vested in your business, and that's why you're asking the hard questions. And I really do appreciate that. I'm very sorry that some of these questions I have never heard, which means that you guys are really smart individuals. Let me go double check. So I'll get that back to you as part of our follow-up. If we can look through the solicitations and see if there's a set aside or a search function just for small. I'll take a look. Good question.
Okay.
I must have did a really good job. Not too many questions.
Bear with me. You know, I've noticed that there's been a lot of IT and service type of companies that have attended these webinars, and is that same type of function that they would search through the code to see if they, if the state of California is buying types of services like that that relate to either IT, computer science, or some type of staffing for IT or computer science activities?
Could you repeat that question again? So I'm kind of lost.
You know, there's been a lot of attendees the past 3 weeks that are in the information technology sector. Would those contracts still be searched out how we went over throughout the past hour through the codes and through the key search words?
Oh yeah, yeah. The IT and IT software. So how to specifically bid in regards to IT and IT software. You'll do the same way. You look up through our either you'll get an email because the codes match the code that we are using to buy IT or IT software, or you'll have to go search to make sure that, because some of the solicitation that go out, they're so complex in regards to, let's say we have 4 new buildings that we're putting in, 3 downtown, 1 in Riverside, and embedded in those contracts are IT. You know, somebody's got to come in and wire them, send them all up for IT work. But the work initially states, when you go searching for, you won't find that. You'll find that it's a building, and they're looking for contracts to build a building. But if you do a little bit more search, you'll find that they need IT and software to be embedded in that. So some of it requires a little bit of ground, how you want to put it, background work. But yeah, most of that stuff will have IT or IT software as part of the solicitation, specifically if that's what they're buying, that is. But you just got to remember that if you can't find anything in your genre as a bidder, try looking at some of the bigger projects and realize that, you know, if you can't find anything for, let's see, what is that, bathroom fixtures. Well, state doesn't normally buy that just for itself, but we'll buy that in conjunction with something that we're putting in, you know, renovations of a building or a brand new building. So as sellers, you have to look a little bit beyond what you read to see if it makes sense for you to even add your bid on it. Here's a thing that I would like to make sure that you understand. Many of our solicitations that we put out there has small business and disabled veteran business enterprise requirements built into them. In other words, if we have a large contract, all of them, in most cases, will require the major prime to sub out some of the work to small businesses. You got to look for those opportunities, because those will probably be where you'll find your most success. I see one from Mark. Mark, you said, can you discuss vendor ads? I use them, but nobody seems to read them, which makes it hard for subs to find primes. Mark, here's your, as I just mentioned, people do read them because they're required as major primes to hire to subs. My recommendation, see here, for those of you who don't understand, when you're looking at solicitations, there is a spot on those solicitations where you can put in a free advertising about your business. One thing that I recommend that you do, and this actually goes to the next class, which is more in depth, is when you fill out that little form, it's asks you who you are, where to find you, and there's a little section in there that says describe what you do. My recommendation is when you put an ad on a state solicitation is one, always add your small business certification number in that advertising, and two, explain why you're the best at what you do and why the prime wants to hire you. But they do look at them, Mark, because they're required to find subs. And then, of course, you have an opportunity now to reach back to any of the primes that you may see, because you can actually download the list of everybody who looked at a solicitation. That way you can see who your competition is and who may be the major primes, so that you can reach back and say, hey, you know, if you haven't seen my ad, you may want to contact, you know, them direct. I see that there's a lot of questions there. Now it's 24 questions that seem to have popped up in the thing that I saw. Celine asked, oh, Celine, I was checking the UNSPSC classification codes, but I could not find anything related to marketing or staffing. Well, they're in there. I've seen them. As marketing staffing firm, can we do business with the state of California? Yeah, you can. The state of California, believe it or not, we hire staffing. One of the things I just helped with was the state developmental services department. Developmental departments, yeah. What they were doing is they were looking for, oh man, I can't remember the title, to staff some of the hospitals that we have. So it's a contract on contract basis. I think they work for 2 years and then they renew the contract. But we do use staffing services for part of our business operations, just so you know. All right, so how do I find specific bids in regards to IT and software? Well, I showed you where to look. You just got to type in IT or software and see what pops up. If nothing pops up, then my recommendation is that you go back into our historical purchasing database and find out who bought what when, and reach back with them and let them know that, hey, anytime they go out forward to buy IT or software, they may reach out to you. One of the things that for IT and IT software, the state has leverage procurement agreements, what we call LPAs. So what happens is the state has like licensing programs. So if we have, because every time we run something on our computers, we have to have a licensing for it. So we have an LPA that we use. For those of you in IT and IT software, you might want to check on our LPA program. Just go into the DGS website and type in under the search function LPA, and we'll take you right to the Leverage Procurement Agreement department, and they can outline everything they have, and you can take a look at what kind of agreements we have already in place in those areas. Right, so anything else you think I should answer there?
Michael, I think you've covered a lot of information and recapped it really, really well. And thank you very much for your time.
Okay, well, if anybody has any questions, of course, you got Michael that you can reach out to over there, Raul as well at the SBDCs. They're your local contacts. If not, you have my contact information as part of the slides. For those two questions that I could not answer because I did not really know and I didn't want to misspoke regarding citizenship and whether or not you can search our data or our existing solicitation for small business only, I'll look them up and then I'll send them out to Michael and Raul to further disseminate information. And Edna, thank you very much. You did a wonderful job with the slides. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael, and everyone who's been on the call. Thank you for being on the call. Next week, we complete this 4-part series with how to do business with the federal government, specifically 8A. So please join us for that one, and watch out for other ones we'll be doing on how to do business with corporations and other government entities as well. Thank you, everybody, and be safe and healthy out there. Thank you.